UFOs left nothing but their footprints. From the Brandon Sun, September 20th, 1974. The UFOs came to Langenburg, a community about 60 miles west of Russell, Manitoba, on silent wings of wind, no windows, no doors, no take me to your leader. But footprints. Big, big footprints. Hundreds have called to see the tracks of the flying saucers. Those who came to scoff remained to ponder. Hovering things, color them stainless steel, made the prints and then flew off, straight up even in formation. Where did they come from? Outer space? The Milky Way? The CIA? Edwin Fuhr, who farms 5 miles north of Langenburg, who is still rather shaken about his brush with the UFOs, would like to know. So would all his neighbors and just about everyone else. Edwin Fuhr went out swathing on Sunday, September 8th, not expecting a date with destiny. He started the tractor and began to swath with a pull-type machine. He had to watch the ground closely, and as he approached a large hay flat, which he knew lay before him, he looked up for a place to turn. In the hay slough, he saw a strange, steel-toned object. At first, he thought it might be a portable duck blind or something his neighbors had put up for a joke. He got off the tractor and went forward, perhaps to give the thing a kick, to see what would happen. As he got within 15 feet or so, he stopped short as he realized that the object was not on the ground, but revolving swiftly and accurately hovering just off the ground. With fear and trepidation, he thought it best to retreat to the tractor. There he sat for 10 or 15 minutes, too much afraid to go forward and too concerned to leave the tractor and depart from the scary scene. As he watched, the first object took off, right up in a straight line, with gray vapor coming from the base. Then the other 4 took off, in turn, and joined the first one in the thick clouds. The objects, said Mr. Fuhr, were about 5 feet in height and about 10 feet across the base. No windows or openings were to be seen from his vantage point. There was no sound to be heard above the noise of the tractor. When the objects rose vertically, there was a wind that momentarily flattened the standing rape and made Fuhr reach for his hat. When all had gone and his fear had subsided, Fuhr went to the hay flat and found 5 distinct donut-style prints in the grass and hay. In the center of the donut, the grass and hay was not disturbed, but around the center was a ring of better than 2 feet wide. The grass in the circle was pressed flat to the ground. The grass was whirled down in a clockwise motion, but not marked in any way. Even days later, the pressed grass circles were still quite distinct. No wheel marks, no tread marks, enter or leave the hay slough. There are no marks under the pressed down grass and hay. To complicate the mystery, a 6th circle was made on Tuesday night 3 days later. Why did a lone object return to the same hay flat in a country with thousands of the same hay flats? Edwin felt the grass. There was no heat. No marks on the ground around the circles, no ash, no discoloring. Giving up the idea of swathing under these fearful circumstances, Edwin Fuhr went home to tell his story to his wife and parents. All mystified, perhaps skeptical, but a look at the circles in the grass threw a different light on the unusual experience. If the circles were not made as related by the only witness, then who, what, and why? Hundreds, even thousands of people have been to see the circles. Mr. Fuhr has been interviewed by radio, television, the press, the police, and many others. No one comes up with a logical answer to the mystery. 3 weeks before the adventure of Edwin Fuhr, a family at Yarbo, about 25 miles southwest of Langenburg, saw 5 objects, each with an aura of light, move across the pre-midnight sky. They had time to get binoculars and pass these around for all family members to have a look. As they watched, a shiny object came and went in a matter of seconds, while the 5 slower objects bobbed their way off to the south. This sighting was reported in the Potashville Minor Journal in mid-August. A bus driver and several passengers on a mainline bus reported unidentifiable objects in the midnight sky about the same time. In the Yarbo district, there is a mysterious light of great fame, but this one, land-based, has been around for half a century, long before the day of the UFO. The unpredictable light is called the Tabor Light because it is often in or near the Pioneer Tabor Cemetery. It only shows when in the mood. Many researchers have never found it. Others have seen it on different occasions. It leaves no footprints in the grass, just a little prickle in the hairs on the back of the neck, as does the Langenburg UFOs. Man claims UFO sighting. From the Free Press, April 14, 1975. Bob Dymart of Carman, Manitoba, who has made flying and aircraft restoration part of his life, says he has seen what he has often searched the skies around his airfield for, an unidentified flying object. This thing obviously was a craft of some kind. I've seen a lot of aircraft flying at night, being in the business, but I've never seen anything like this. Mr. Dymart and his wife sighted the craft about 9 p.m. and watched it slowly pass nearby them for about 7 minutes. To the untrained observer, the craft could be mistaken for an ordinary aircraft, with red lights on its wings and brighter red lights on the fuselage, he said. But the craft moved too slowly, was too bright, and displayed neither the green nor white lights on normal aircraft, Mr. Dymart said in a telephone interview Saturday. The lights weren't blinding. They pulsated somewhat. It was like a bright red light in the middle with 2 neon lines going out from it. What caught our attention was that it was flying so low. Normally, an aircraft wouldn't fly that low at night. We thought at first that it was a helicopter from Portage La Prairie, but they move pretty good. This craft was going no more than 50 or 60 miles an hour, more likely about 30 miles. A normal aircraft wouldn't fly at 30 miles an hour. When the Dymarts first saw the craft, it wasn't more than a mile or so away, though Mr. Dymart said it is difficult to gauge distance at night. It passed within a half mile of the couple. The craft came over the trees to the west of the airfield at a height of no more than 300 feet, then seemed to follow along the highway between Carman and Graysville, finally disappearing behind a clump of trees. There was no noise from the craft. I'm a believer they're in existence, Mr. Dymart said of unidentified flying objects. There's just too much of it reported now. There's obviously something. I'm always watching for them. I'm fairly convinced this wasn't an aircraft of a type we know. A neighbor also saw the craft, and the incident was reported to the Carman RCMP. However, no one was available for comment. UFO follows Lydiate visitors. From the Bossiger Beaver, September 19, 1972. A 68 dark blue Dodge swung south on Highway 203 just outside Bossiger town limits at 9:45 p.m. on Thursday, September 7th. Occupants of the vehicle were Inspector William McFarland of the RCMP, his wife Tia, and their 3 children Bob, 13, Tim, 12, and Catherine, 7. The powerful beams of the headlights punched 2 bright holes in the dark, moonless night with heavy cloud cover. As the McFarlands drove down the gravel road on their way to visit Tia's mother, Mrs. A. Riemann, on their journey to Ottawa, where Inspector McFarland has been posted. Within moments of turning down 203, a bright, luminous object approached from the east at an altitude of about 30 feet. It zeroed in over the McFarland vehicle and proceeded to follow for 20 to 25 minutes. Bob, the oldest boy, was the first to spot the strange object. "Hey, there's something following us," he cried. Alarmed, the boy's mother turned and looked toward the rear window. "What do you mean?" she asked. "There's nobody behind us." "No," cried the boy. It's up there, can't you see it?" He pointed above the roof of the car where a strange light object, slightly off to the east, could be seen from any point of the vehicle. The oblong, bright glowing object appeared to be the size and shape of an oval dining room table. 4 to 5 feet in length and about a foot in depth. Inspector McFarland speeded the car up and then slowed down to a crawl several times. The object held its position above the roof. At the corner of 302 and the Springfield Broken Head Boundary Road, 6 miles from the turnoff point on the main highway, he stopped the car and doused the headlights to see if the object could possibly be some unusual reflection from the car headlights. The object did not disappear. Instead, it hovered over them. After waiting a few minutes, they proceeded on for the last mile and a half to Mrs. Reman's neat stucco bungalow. The UFO went with them, maintaining its position about 30 feet above the ground. When Inspector McFarland switched off the ignition and turned off the headlights in his mother-in-law's yard, there was an object waiting for them. It had shifted its position from above the car and was now hovering over the house. The children rushed into the house, breathless and excited. "Grandma, Grandma," they cried, "come see what's out here." They seized their astounded grandma by her arms and almost dragged her out into the yard. 10 feet above her one-story home was a UFO. It seemed to sway slightly as it rotated in a swinging motion, but otherwise it maintained its position over the house. It was a soft, bright white light, halo in shape, but seemingly solid all the way through. There seemed to be no sharp edges or any details visible on it, they all agreed. We all watched it for a good 5 minutes, and then it slowly moved off to the west, rotating as it went, and then we lost it behind the trees. Inspector McFarland, a veteran RCMP officer with a disciplined mind, had been very skeptical of UFO reports up to this point, and was not about to jump on the believers' bandwagon. Neither was he able to deny the evidence of his own eyes when he had tested the UFO for reflections. There just has to be some sort of reasonable explanation, he said. Checking with Captain Dual of CFS Boesiger radar site, it was learned by the Beaver that no unusual sightings had occurred on that evening. However, noted Captain Dual, commercial-level aircraft would have been processed by normal means and would not have been looked for by the base. On checking with residents of 2 houses along the 7.5-mile stretch the McFarland car traveled, no one else saw either the car or the object. Heavy bush and foliage from yard trees obscured the roadway. There are only 6 homes along the entire stretch, and most are far back from the road. To the reporter, one item stood out on questioning the family. Only Mrs. McFarland had felt any sense of fear. "What do you suppose it could be, Mother?" she had asked while they watched the UFO above Mrs. Reman's home. "Oh, it's probably just one of those flying saucer things you hear about every so often," her mother replied. There have been a number of UFO sightings in eastern Manitoba in the past. In June of 1967, over 20 different valid, unidentified flying object sightings occurred during an 8-week period. Mrs. Wayne Inkpen of the Tyndall area spotted a similar oval object to the one the McFarlands saw about 11:30 p.m. on May 31, 1967. Mr. John Kreischuck of Brokenhead on April 3, 1968, was badly shaken for several days after a 40-foot UFO making a buzzing sound followed him in his farm vehicle a distance of 13 miles into Boesiger along Highway 12. That one hovered over his truck some 400 feet overhead, and supplied enough light that headlights could have been unnecessary. He too tried stopping his vehicle and turned out his lights in the hopes that he was seeing a reflection. The UFO just hovered overhead and waited for him to proceed. On August 30th, 1968, at 10:15 p.m., Ken Bilkowski, Keith Lafreniere, and Lee Englot, all 17 years old at the time, thought they saw one and drove into the sandpit area near the Boesiger Hospital to get away from streetlights and get a clear view. The disc-shaped object, about 100 feet in diameter, with 4 to 6 domes, and red and white light with brilliant blue flashes, came right in over the pit, terrorizing the boys to the point where one of them broke and ran for home. On all these occasions, a number of other people also saw the same UFO. The rash of sightings in 1967 prompted former MP for Springfield, Ed Schreier, to bring the matter up in the House of Commons. A spokesman for the Defense Department at that time said that such accounts are passed on to the National Research Commission if there is no local explanation for the UFO. Reports are also made to the U.S. authorities. The American government has a special section operating in conjunction with the North American Air Defense Command, NORAD. Whatever the explanation, the McFarland family are not likely to forget their strange drive down a lonely Lydiate road near Beausejour, accompanied by a mysterious presence which hovered above the roof of their vehicle. UFO Sightings Everyday Occurrence from the Dufferin Leader, May 15, 1975. UFO watching is becoming a favorite pastime for many residents of the Carman area since several sightings have been reported within the past month. Bob Dimer reported a sighting on April 10th, which was reported last month, along with a previous sighting in March. Last Wednesday and Thursday night, sightings were again made by several people on watch at Friendship Airfield. On Friday night, several carloads of town residents again took up vigilance, and Paul Sanders found his patience paid off, making a sighting at 15 minutes to midnight. Parked a mile southwest of Carman, he saw a UFO flying from east due west toward the number 3 highway. It turned and veered north, with portholes visible on the underside as it banked heading north to disappear below the trees at the cemetery. Paul watched the object with field glasses and estimated its size to be similar to that of a DC-3 aircraft, glowing red and saucer-shaped. Saturday night, a watch was set up again, with no sightings reported. Sunday night vigilance paid off for Bob and Elaine Dimer, accompanied by Tom Aldred and Barry Johnston. They made a sighting of a UFO at 20 past midnight. They saw a red object flying from west to east, visible above the horizon. Watching the object in field glasses, they described it again as being red and in the shape of a saucer. It appeared to be flying on a 20-degree angle. It stopped and hovered for some 20 minutes in line with the Haywood microwave tower. When it stopped, the group took off in pursuit by car, and nearing Haywood, they saw it head north and disappear towards Southport Air Base. Again, Bob described the saucer to be about the size of a DC-3 aircraft. A sighting of an unidentified flying object was made late Tuesday night by Leader staff members, KCY news staff, and by Bob Dimer and other citizens of the area. The sighting was made about 11:30 p.m., with the UFO first sighted on the ground northwest of Graysville. A television crew stationed 1 mile north of Carman focused a camera on the UFO while the leader car sped west 1 mile north of the object, while Dimer, accompanied by CKY reporter Bill Kendrick, sped west 1 mile south of the line. On approaching Graysville, the object was sighted on the ground and appeared to be in excess of 50 feet wide, being on a 45-degree angle on the road. The Haywood microwave tower was visible to the right of the UFO when the cars were headed west, with the object about midway between a line due west of the tower. The UFO took off, stopped over the tree line, then headed north over the tower at a high rate of speed. This was confirmed by the Dimer passengers who were 1 mile south of the road and by the CKY News cameraman who was stationed back at Carman, 1 mile north of the town. Leader staff members Howard Bennett and Carrie McIntyre were accompanied in their car by Ted Story of Miami. UFOs over Carman from the Dufferin Leader, May 29, 1975. There has been a rash of sightings of UFOs in the Carman area during the past month, with one of the sightings officially recorded on film by a CKY television camera crew. The sighting made Tuesday, May 13th, was made on the Ken Roth farm in the Graysville district and was recorded on a CKY television camera located 7 miles to the east. The TV camera caught the image of the unidentified flying object just hovering above the ground. The film sequences show the object rising, hovering. Then, with a flash of light, presumably created by a surge of power, the UFO sped high in the sky at an incredibly high rate of speed. This film has been shown nationally on the CTV network. Howard Bennett, publisher of the Dufferin Leader of Carman, accompanied by staff member Carrie McIntyre and by Ted Story of Miami, Manitoba, were within a half-mile of the UFO when it took off from the Roth farm. Mr. Bennett described the UFO to be about 50 to 75 feet in diameter. They had sighted the object with the TV crew, who are stationed 2 miles north of Carman. Working together, the leader's staff agreed to drive west on a course of 1 mile north of the object and attempted to get close to it to take pictures. Driving 5 miles west of Carman with their lights off, the newsmen then swung south to the road where the sighting had been made. They then proceeded west again for 1.5 miles where they saw the UFO clearly behind the trees on the Roth farm. The object took off and was recorded on film at the time by the TV crew. Bob Dimart of Carman, accompanied by Mrs. Dimart and by Bill Kendrick of CKY-TV News, had been driving a similar course 1 mile south of where the object had been sighted. They too confirmed the sighting from another angle. 1 week later, Ed Marker and Ernest Seelman from the Winnipeg Museum of Man and Nature inspected the ground where the sighting had been reported and were able to record a high level of radioactivity with a Geiger counter. This confirmed without a doubt that a UFO had been hovering close to the ground on the Roth farm. Bob and Elaine Dimer of Carman have made 5 sightings of UFOs in the Carman area in the past month. Other reports of sightings have also been reported from Sperling in the east, south as far as Morden, and west to Miami. Many citizens from the town of Carman now spend their evenings sitting along the roadside in their cars, hoping to make further confirmed sightings. This past week, the CKY TV crew has been stationed on the Haywood Microwave Tower, hoping to get more film coverage of the UFOs. The Carman sightings are similar to the many sightings reported in the Beausejour area and in southeastern Manitoba during 1968. Charlie Red Star remains mystery of the sky. From the Dufferin Leader, May 15, 1975. A month ago, on April 10th at 9:10 p.m., Bob and Elaine Dimer of Carman saw what they described as an unidentified flying object, which they observed for several minutes. A number of people over the years in various locales have sighted flying objects, some who have not reported their sightings because of fear of public opinion. However, a rarity in reported sightings are sightings by groups of people and on more than one occasion. The rash of reported sightings within the past week started on May 7th at the Friendship Airfield at Carman when Bob and Elaine Dimer, Jim Aldred, Bob Skelton, and Harold Taylor all had an opportunity to view this mysterious object that has since that day almost become commonplace in the evening skies. The group was busy digging up a wire on the runway at the airfield at the time. Mr. Taylor was the first of the group to spot the UFO as it appeared on the horizon to the west as a red light coming over the tree line. Mr. Dimer estimated that it was flying at about 1,000 feet, but at a much greater velocity than it had been on the occasion of his first viewing a month previously. He estimated that it was traveling faster than a small aircraft at approximately 110 miles per hour. Just as in the April 10th sighting, the UFO, upon approaching Carman, veered off to the north, but this time, Bob Dimer was in pursuit with his car. The group drove out as far as Stout's Auto Wrecking and observed the object in the sky, moving out of sight towards Winnipeg. The time of this particular sighting was 11:15 p.m. When they had lost it, and Bob Dimer, who had never expected to see a UFO, had now seen one twice, and this time he had a number of witnesses to verify that his eyes hadn't played tricks on him. When you have seen a UFO twice, you don't expect to see it a third time. Thursday night, 10:40 p.m., Bob and Elaine Dimert, Jim Aldred, Harold Taylor, and a member of the Air Force and his wife, who did not wish to be identified, are at Friendship Airfield, and Elaine exclaims, "Here it comes again." There it is, a UFO moving from north to south, but this time it is quite a distance from the airfield. Then it begins its already familiar course of approaching Carman and then veering off to the north. This time it is lower in altitude than the previous night and proceeding at about 60 to 80 miles per hour. Jim Aldred and Bob Dimert are perched on the top of the hangar as they observe it, disappearing over the tree line north toward Portage. There is no doubt in Bob Dimert's mind, from his observation, that this is not a conventional type of aircraft. The Air Force man comments that it is incredible. No known aircraft could fly that low at night. It is absolutely impossible. In talking to the leader, Bob Dimert speculates that the craft must be equipped with a terrain-following radar mechanism. That would explain the bobbling, or up and down movement of the craft. At first, Bob had felt this effect was due to atmospheric conditions, similar to heat waves, but he doubts that now. In his opinion, it must be the terrain-following radar system that enables the craft to fly at low altitudes at night that makes it appear to be moving up and down, as it adjusts to the trees and buildings below, enabling it to keep a constant altitude to the terrain. What is it? It's the boys out west making their regular beer run, says Dimert jokingly. But then, in a serious vein, he reflects that in his opinion, it is probably a new military craft that has not been made public. The low altitudes that the craft can fly at enable it to evade all radar detecting systems. The plan. Friday night, the runway lights are on, an aircraft standing by, and more hopeful UFO spotters have joined the elite group that have already seen it more than once at Friendship Airfield. If the UFO shows again tonight, Bob Dimert will go up for a closer look. Cars are parked along the road, adjacent to the airfield. A number of hopeful skywatchers are huddled in little groups in front of the hangar, where Bob Dimert is preparing to paint Harold Taylor's aircraft. What's that up there, over to the northwest? Everyone strains their eyes, but it's probably only a star. It's too far away. The conclusion, it's only a star. The air is getting cold. A few of the watchers seek refuge in their cars or the hangar where the smell of paint fills the air. A few more false alarms, and the hour of midnight is fast approaching. It doesn't look like Charlie Red Star is going to come out of the hills tonight. The hopeful UFO watchers begin to disperse. 11:45 p.m. Paul Sanders hasn't given up, but he is parked a mile southwest of Carman. There it is, flying from the east this time towards the west. Paul has his field glasses, and as it turns to veer north, he observes portholes on the underside. In his estimation, it is as big as a DC-3 aircraft. It disappears from his sight below the trees at the cemetery. Saturday night is a dry run with no sightings reported. Sunday, May 11th, marks the fourth sighting for the Dimerts. This time, they were accompanied by Tom Aldred and Barry Johnston. The time, 12:20 a.m. They viewed a red object in the field glasses flying from west to east. They described it as being saucer-shaped, and Bob Dimert estimated it to be about the size of a DC-3. It appeared to be flying at about a 20-degree angle. Then it stopped and hovered for about 20 minutes in approximate line with the Haywood Microwave Tower. During this time, the four viewers took off in pursuit by car, and as they approached Haywood, the UFO began moving in a northerly direction toward the Southport Air Base. What is Charlie Red Star? It would appear from the reports of these latest sightings that it is definitely some type of aircraft. It is difficult to determine how many individuals have sighted this UFO, or whether there is more than one. Usually the RCMP receive reports of UFOs from those individuals who admit they have sighted one, but there isn't much they can do about the matter. However, Constable Ian Nicholson, after receiving Bob Dimert's reports last Thursday night, May 8th, decided to take a drive out to Friendship Airfield. At 12:15 p.m., he spotted something in the sky to the west that he had never seen before. He estimated the red oval-shaped object was about 3 or 4 miles away and at an altitude of 1,000 feet. He said the object seemed to have a white X in the center, as if columns of light were forming the X. Constable Nicholson decided to pursue the object with the patrol car. He lost sight of it about 2 miles west of Stephenfield. He said that he observed the object for a total time of 12 minutes, as he checked his watch when first sighting it. Constable Nicholson told the leader that he had always been a little skeptical about UFO sightings, but after his sighting of this object, he wasn't sure about his former views. Charlie Red Star remains a mystery, but almost a hobby for avid UFO gazers. UFO lands at Winkler Farm. From the Argus, May 28, 1975. UFO sightings are becoming more numerous, with people readily discussing them following the recent news and photographing of a UFO west of Carman last Tuesday. A sighting made 3 weeks ago by Mr. and Mrs. Abe Hildebrand of Winkler just came to light this week. Mr. Hildebrand says the object they saw in their field was about twice the size of a car, and there were marks in the ground after the object had disappeared. The following report of the incident was reported to Catherine Everson, Leader Morden news editor, by Mrs. Abe Hildebrand. About 3 weeks ago at 4:15 a.m., early Saturday morning, Mr. and Mrs. Abe Hildebrand of Morden were awakened by a bright white light coming through their bedroom window. Actually, the dogs were causing a fuss in their yard and were looking toward a clump of trees at the bottom of the rise on which the Hildebrand home sits. The Hildebrands watched a glowing light situated there for about 3/4 of an hour. Then it just faded and the sky lit up as morning approached. Mrs. Hildebrand said she thought the light faded, and then the horizon lit up and the object was gone. They did not see it move. In the morning, Mr. and Mrs. Hildebrand looked at the site of the landing and saw 4 marks in the earth. Little rectangles about 1 to 1.5 inches in size, and pressed down about 3 inches in the ground. There was not a definite shape to the markings except that they were grouped in twos, 18 to 20 inches apart from each other, and about 4 or 5 feet apart in pairs at an angle from each other. Mrs. Hildebrand said her husband had opened the door when he thought he heard a whirring noise, but he could not be sure of this. Because the Hildebrands had just moved to their home and they hadn't unpacked their camera as yet, they were unable to take pictures of the object or the markings. When asked how she felt when she sighted the object, Mrs. Hildebrand said she was uneasy enough to not go out and look, but stayed in the house. The Hildebrand home is situated 6.5 miles south of Morden. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked it. And if you did, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to stay up to date with everything I post. If you want to check out more of my paranormal videos, you can click the pop-up on the top right corner for a full playlist. And if you have your own paranormal encounters, UFO sightings, or any other kind of strange story, you can either share it in the comments, post on my subreddit, r/ihaveaspookystory, or send it to my story submission email, pinkpossiblystories@gmail.com. Maybe your story will be in a future video. Good night, sleep tight, and don't let the shadows bite.